The story begins with a quiet girl named Ayan. To everyone around her, she looks like an ordinary high school student, simple, calm, and unremarkable. But behind that innocent face lies a secret world no one knows about. Ayan is a hidden writer. In silence, she has written an entire novel, 100 episodes long, pouring her thoughts, emotions, and imagination into every line. Yet no one reads it, no comments, no views, just emptiness. Every time she checks her story, it feels like staring into a desert, lifeless and silent. One morning, while having breakfast with her family, she casually mentions something that catches their attention. The house at the end of the street has new residents. The old tenants moved out, and now 4 unbelievably handsome young men have moved in. They look like idols straight out of a drama. But instead of reacting to that, her mother suddenly shifts the conversation, asking her husband when they are going to move out too. Her father, calm as always, smiles and replies jokingly, "What's wrong, dear? Don't you like our apartment?" The mood shifts, but Ayan doesn't care much. She quickly excuses herself, saying she's already late for school. On her way, something unusual happens. She notices 2 young men standing nearby. At first glance, it looks like they're arguing, but in reality, they're just talking normally. Not wanting to get involved, Ayan pulls out her phone and fixes her hair using the screen reflection, her short bangs barely sitting above her eyebrows. But suddenly, one of the guys, Jack, locks eyes with her, and in an instant, everything changes. He assumes she's recording them. With a cold and warning tone, he orders her to delete the video. No matter how much she insists she wasn't filming anything, he doesn't believe her. Honestly, if you were in his place, you might have doubted her too. Things escalate quickly. Frustrated, Jack grabs her phone while she tries to hold on to it. They struggle until the phone slips, falls to the ground, and the screen cracks. Ayan freezes, then bursts into tears. She yells at him, telling him he crossed the line, reminding him she already said she wasn't filming. With sarcasm burning in her voice, she snaps, "Why would I even record you? Who do you think you are? Some celebrity?" The second guy, Hyan, steps in and apologizes politely, but at the same time he points out that she provoked Jack. Then calmly he asks her to just leave and mind her own business. Ayan says nothing. She simply walks away. But Jack isn't done. He follows her with his eyes, warning her that if any video of them appears online, he'll sue her for defamation. Later, we leave Ayan behind for a moment and focus on those 4 mysterious guys. They're driving together looking like movie stars. As they pass by, Jack spots Ayan again and tells Han to slow down. He stares directly at her, then points at his own eyes, silently signaling, "I'm watching you." And somehow that threat feels real. When Ayan finally arrives at school, her best friend Gu is waiting. As they talk, Ayan tells her everything that happened that morning, but instead of comforting her, Gu criticizes her. She says if she were in Ayan's place, she wouldn't have let him leave without paying for the damaged phone. At that moment, Gu's ex-boyfriend calls her, but she ignores it completely. Ayan can't believe it. "How can you ignore the most handsome guy in the arts academy?" she asks. Then she teases her, wondering when she'll finally meet someone she truly loves. Gu smiles and replies confidently, "The moment I fall in love, I'll become a better writer." That answer catches Ayan off guard. Gu then asks her again when she'll finally let her read her novel. But Ayan quickly shuts it down. Writing is her secret, something no one is allowed to know. Because the truth is, Ayan writes stories she doesn't want anyone to discover. But the real shock comes next. As they approach the teacher's office, they see a crowd of girls gathered outside, whispering and staring in excitement. Why? Because 4 new teachers have arrived. Young, handsome, perfect, each one more attractive than the other. The girls can't stop staring, as if they've never seen good-looking men in their lives before. Of course, Ayan looks too, curious like everyone else. Then the introductions begin. Han, the physical education teacher, Kim, the language teacher, Hyun, the Korean literature teacher, and finally, Jack, the sports teacher. Yes, that Jack, the same guy from the morning. Ayan's heart drops. Out of all the bad luck in the world, these guys are now her teachers. Before she can even process it, the crowd of girls pushes forward, the door bursts open, and they all tumble into the office like a pile of potatoes, messy, chaotic, and embarrassing. The principal shouts at them to get out, but Ayan, she doesn't move. She stands there, frozen, staring directly at Jack, and the moment he sees her, He recognizes her instantly. As the girls walk through the hallway, their eyes are glued to the new teachers, admiring their looks like they're celebrities. But unlike the others, Ayan isn't enjoying the moment. Her face is heavy with worry. She keeps thinking about Jack and the bad impression he already has of her. To him, she's just a girl who secretly records people. And that thought alone makes her nervous about how this entire year is going to go. Inside the classroom, chaos turns into something unbelievable. The girls transform the place into what looks like a beauty salon, one fixing her hair, another putting on lashes, others checking their makeup like they're preparing for a wedding, not a school day. And all of this just to impress the new teachers when they walk in. But suddenly, a sharp voice cuts through the noise. It's Sun, the top student of the class, the quiet genius. Without even raising her tone much, she orders everyone to be quiet. And strangely, they all listen. No arguments, no resistance, just silence. Seeing that, Ayan and Gu quietly slip out of the classroom, escaping the tension. Meanwhile, the 4 teachers are settling into their new environment. Each of them arranges his desk in his own way. Kim seems the most relaxed, constantly taking selfies, enjoying himself like he's on vacation. On the other hand, Jack is the complete opposite, serious, cold. He doesn't like appearing in photos at all, and from the way he cleans and organizes everything, it's clear he's almost obsessed with order. What's more noticeable is the tension between him and Kim. They argue like rivals, constantly clashing in front of everyone as if they can't stand each other. Back outside, Gu keeps talking non-stop about Hyun. To her, he's the perfect man, the prince she's been dreaming of her whole life. But Ayan doesn't agree. She tells her that he's not really her type. Still, Gu insists. "All it took was a few seconds," she says, "and he completely changed my world." Ayan doesn't understand how someone can fall that fast, but she doesn't argue. Then comes the moment Ayan was dreading. She opens the classroom door and freezes. Standing right there is Jack, their teacher. Her heart sinks. Without thinking, she quickly closes the door again. But where can she go? There's no escape. Taking a deep breath, she opens it once more. Jack looks at her, one hand on his waist, his expression sharp and intimidating, as if silently saying, "Are you coming in? Or should I invite you personally?" Ayan walks in. But inside her head, she's cursing him nonstop, calling him arrogant and full of himself. The class begins. As Jack calls attendance, something strange happens. When he reaches Sun's name, he doesn't call it. Instead, he casually mentions that he already knows her. She once won a mathematics competition. Ayan and Gu exchange confused looks. Why her? Why didn't he call her name? It's obvious. They must know each other from before. Then, he reaches Ayan's name and says it once, twice, 3 times. It's not just attendance anymore. It feels like a warning, like he's marking her. After finishing, Jack introduces himself as their math teacher for the entire year. The moment the girls hear this, they explode with excitement, cheering, whispering, completely losing control. But Jack doesn't react at all. He stands there like a statue, waiting for them to calm down on their own. When silence finally returns, he begins speaking. Not softly, not kindly, but firmly. He explains what mathematics truly means and makes it clear that he won't tolerate laziness. He will push them hard because he wants them to become disciplined, capable students. The class doesn't like his tone at all, and then he calls Ayan. He asks her a simple question. "What was your last math exam score?" Ayan lowers her voice, almost whispering, 4. Jack raises an eyebrow. 40? She shakes her head. No, just 4. The entire class bursts into laughter. Jack doesn't hold back. He tells her plainly that someone with that level should probably go back to elementary school. And to him, she becomes an easy target, because while she's struggling in math, she's secretly busy writing stories that don't even follow reality. After class, he asks her to come to his office, alone. Inside, Ayan quickly tries to defend herself. She shows him her phone, proving she never recorded him. Photos, videos, everything. But Jack doesn't care. He barely looks. He just watches her, silently. That silence makes her overthink everything. Maybe he hates her because she came late, or because she muttered something about him during class, or maybe He simply decided to hate her from the start. So she apologizes for everything. She even offers to make it up to him just to get him off her back. But instead, he humiliates her again in front of the other teachers, asking how she managed to score only 4 in math. Ayan finally admits it. She hates math. To her, it's boring, complicated, and requires thinking, something she doesn't enjoy. That answer hits a nerve. Because Jack loves math. To him, it's a subject for the intelligent, and anyone who disrespects it is unacceptable. So he punishes her. He orders her to write 20 full pages about a famous mathematician. Ayan leaves the office completely broken, confused, exhausted, lost. How is she supposed to write all that? On her way back, she runs into Hyan, gentle, calm, kind, the complete opposite of Jack. She can't help but wonder, how can someone like Hyan even be friends with someone like Jack? Back in class, she wakes up her classmate G, telling her Jack wants her in the office. But it's clear G isn't in the mood for anything. She looks tired, distant, like she's carrying her own problems. Later, Jack questions G about being late. To him, being late means disrespect and lack of discipline. When she stays silent, he gives her one last warning. But as she leaves, another teacher tells Jack something blunt. "Don't think you can change the students, just focus on teaching." Meanwhile, in Hyan's class, the atmosphere is completely different. The girls' faces glow, especially Gu, who looks like she's living in a dream, completely lost in her feelings. All the teachers are loved, all except Jack. He's feared. The only student he truly respects is Sun, because she's focused, intelligent, and disciplined. One day, Jack asks about G. Ayan answers honestly. She never attends the first class and always leaves early. And just like that, Ayan regrets opening her mouth. Because Jack assigns her cleaning duty, along with 2 other girls. As she throws out the trash, she blames herself. Why did I even speak? Later, in Hyan's class, Ayan isn't paying attention at all. Instead of listening, she's writing notes, not for school, but for her secret novel. She's analyzing Hyan, his personality, his kindness, even his expressions, planning to turn him into a character in her story. Meanwhile, Gu is completely lost in admiration. When class ends, she suddenly runs after Hyan, handing him a chalk holder so his hands won't get dirty. Hyan, kind as ever, accepts it without embarrassing her. That small moment means everything to Gu. During physical education, Ayan watches Han closely. Strong, energetic, confident, perfect material for her story. She decides to add him as a character too. After a long run that nearly exhausts her, Han offers her water and gently suggests she join extra training sessions. He believes she has potential. That simple kindness makes her heart race. She gets flustered, thanks him, and quickly walks away. Then she whispers to herself, "What's wrong with you? Are you really going to fall for your teacher?" When Ayan gets home, she is still burning from everything Jack did to her. So instead of forgetting about him, she decides to take revenge in the only way she knows, through her story. She opens her secret novel and adds Jack as a new character, but she doesn't give him any heroic qualities. No, she gives him the worst traits possible: cold, arrogant, annoying, and impossible to deal with. It feels satisfying for a moment, like she finally punished him in her own world. But when the episode is ready, she freezes. She doesn't have the courage to publish it. Even though she doesn't write under her real name, she becomes scared that one of the teachers might somehow read it and realize she is talking about them. So instead of uploading it, she simply saves the episode on her laptop and leaves it there. Her revenge stays hidden. The next morning, Ayan leaves the house, hoping for a peaceful day. But of course, peace is not written for her. As she walks to school, she suddenly notices Jack ahead of her, walking in the same direction. Immediately, she slows down, afraid he might think she is following him again. But then, something strange happens. Jack suddenly stops. He touches his face, starts jumping around like he has been electrocuted, and then collapses unconscious. Ayan stares at him in shock. A second ago, he was walking normally, and now he is on the ground like something serious happened. Even though she dislikes him, she runs toward him. And when she gets close, she sees the reason. A bird has left its gift on his face. Ayan tries not to panic. She wipes his cheek, then starts pressing on his chest, trying to revive him like she has seen people do in dramas. A moment later, Jack suddenly wakes up, gasping like someone who just came out of water. His glasses are gone, so his vision is blurry. He can barely see her properly, but his attitude is still alive and healthy. Instead of thanking her, he snaps, "What are you doing here?" Ayan gets offended immediately. She reminds him that she was trying to save him, and the normal response should be, "Thank you," not disgust. Then she points out that a little bird mess shouldn't make a person faint and jump around like that. But the moment Jack hears her say that, he gets angry. He explains, with full seriousness, that things like that can carry viruses and cause diseases. To him, this isn't a joke. It is a health disaster. Then Ayan notices him struggling. He keeps looking around, clearly unable to find something. She realizes he must be searching for his glasses, so she offers to help. Her intention is good, but unfortunately, whenever Ayan tries to do good, disaster follows. While searching, she accidentally steps on his glasses. Crack. They break under her foot. Ayan's soul almost leaves her body. She doesn't have the courage to tell him. When Jack asks what that sound was, she quickly lies and says she stepped on a tree branch. Then, out of fear, she picks up the broken glasses and secretly hides them inside her bag. No one saw, no one knows. At least, that's what she hopes. Since Jack truly can't see properly without his glasses, he asks Ayan to find Hyun's number in his phone. When he calls Hyun, he asks him to bring his spare glasses. Soon, his friends arrive and help him search for the missing pair, but of course, they find nothing. Ayan stands there with a guilty conscience, wanting to confess that the glasses are with her. But she can't. Jack already hates her on a normal day. If he finds out she broke his glasses too, she might not survive the morning. In the end, the others tell Jack to use the spare glasses for now until he gets a new pair made. They thank Ayan for helping and get into the car, but when they see her still standing there, not moving, they feel awkward. After all, she helped them, and it would look heartless to just leave her behind. So they offer her a ride. Ayan ends up sitting in the car with all 4 teachers. She feels extremely embarrassed. At the same time, she secretly texts Gu and tells her that she is currently in one car with the 4 new teachers. Gu almost loses her mind and demands details immediately. Ayan tells her she will explain everything once she arrives at school. But the moment they reach the gate, Ayan panics. She quickly hides and tells the teachers to cover her. If the other girls see her getting out of their car, they will turn her into their entertainment for the whole school. They might bully her, attack her, or at least make her life miserable. And honestly, she is not wrong. Because the moment the car enters the school, the girls start running after it like it's a wedding parade. When they finally stop at the parking area, Ayan tries to get out quietly, but Jack stands in front of her, ruining everything as usual. He looks at her and says, "Do you need an invitation to get out? Or do you think you're stepping down from a plane?" Ayan swallows her anger, but Jack still doesn't fully trust her. He asks her again about his glasses. She reminds him that she already said she didn't see them, but Jack narrows his eyes. He tells her he heard something breaking, and it's strange because there were no tree branches in that place. Then he warns her, if she is lying, she will regret it. Ayan says nothing, but inside, guilt is eating her alive. Later in class, a new student arrives from Singapore. Her name is Jenny, and luckily she seems friendly. The girls like her immediately, and after class, they gather around her, curious to know more. When they ask why she came to Korea, Jenny says she fell in love with the country because of the K-dramas she watches. Honestly, she is not alone. She also says she heard Korean food is delicious, which makes the girls even more excited to talk to her. Meanwhile, Ayan is sitting alone, secretly trying to fix Jack's broken glasses. She remembers how uncomfortable he looked in class, rubbing his eyes again and again because the spare glasses weren't right for him. And even though she hates him, she feels bad. During Kim's lesson, Ayan still isn't focused. While he is explaining, she keeps writing in her notebook. Kim notices and walks toward her quietly. When he looks down, he finds her writing the punishment essay Jack gave her. And just like that, he takes her straight to Jack's office. Kim tells Jack that Ayan wasn't paying attention in class and was writing something else. Jack is already in a bad mood because of his missing glasses, so this only makes things worse. He orders Ayan to read what she wrote. When she starts reading softly, he gets angry and tells her to raise her voice so everyone can hear. Her essay is basically a complaint to a famous mathematician, asking why she has to study a subject she doesn't love and won't even use after graduation. Jack listens, unable to tell whether this is an apology or an insult. In the end, Ayan quickly apologizes and says she is the ignorant one, while he is right. Of course, that last line is only strategy. She just wants him to let her go and remove her from his target list. But Jack doesn't soften. Instead, he deducts 2 marks from her grade, and as if that isn't enough, he gives her another responsibility. From now on, she is responsible for G's attendance. If Jack enters the class and G isn't there, he will deduct 2 marks from G and 4 marks from Ion. Ion is speechless. What does G have to do with her? Is she her mother now? When Ion tells her friends what happened, they all agree it is extremely unfair. Some joke that maybe she looks like Jack's ex-girlfriend, so he is taking revenge on her. Another girl says the truth plainly. He just doesn't like you. Then her friends come up with a foolish plan. They tell her to pretend she is sick. So Ion sits there holding her stomach, acting weak and miserable. But Jack notices the trick immediately. Her foundation is too pale, as if she painted herself sick. Worse, the color of her face doesn't match her neck, and some of the foundation is even stuck on her pillow. Jack exposes her without mercy. As punishment, he asks her a math question and demands an immediate answer. Ion is confused. What does a math question have to do with her stomach pain? But once she realizes her acting failed completely, she sits up properly, accepting defeat. But does Ion learn anything from all this? Of course not. During lunch, she is eating with her friends and Jenny, listening as Jenny talks about her Brazilian boyfriend. Jenny claims he wants her to become a model with him. But from the way she speaks, it is obvious she might be exaggerating, or maybe even lying. Still, the girls listen, entertained by the drama, and Ion, as always, keeps collecting every strange detail around her. At another time, Jack goes to the pharmacy to buy the medicine his doctor prescribed. Ever since he changed his glasses, he has been suffering from dizziness and headaches. Honestly, the man doesn't know where to handle problems from anymore. At school, he has Ion and her disasters waiting for him, and outside school, even his own health is turning against him. While he puts eye drops in, the pharmacist keeps staring at him. When he notices, she gets embarrassed and says, "Sorry, it's just that you look like one of those handsome drama heroes." Jack doesn't react. He simply takes his medicine and leaves. When he returns to school, Ion notices the medicine bag in his hand, and for the first time, she starts paying attention to the fact that something might actually be wrong with him. Later in class, G suddenly gets up and leaves. Ion panics and begs her to wait until the bell rings. It's only 15 minutes. But G, who seems like she has been cast in the drama as a silent character, just looks at her and walks away. At that exact moment, Jack enters. Ion quickly explains that she tried everything to stop G, but G refused to listen. Still, Jack doesn't care. He deducts the 4 marks from Ion just like he promised, and that becomes the final straw. Angry and hurt, Ion remembers every punishment he has given her, every unfair moment, every cold word. So when she sees his broken glasses, she throws them into the trash. In her mind, it's revenge. "Stay dizzy then," she thinks. "Maybe this will teach you." The next day, Aeon goes to school feeling low. Hyun notices her mood and gently asks what's wrong. She tells him about everything Jack has been doing to her, hoping he will understand. But Hyun, being too kind and too calm, doesn't really solve anything. Instead, he tells her Jack wouldn't treat her that way for no reason, and maybe she made more than one mistake. Aeon almost wants to tell him to move out of her way and keep walking. Honestly, if Aeon just grew her bangs a little longer, maybe her life would start making sense. Later, she goes to the library and opens the story where she wrote Jack as a terrible character. She hesitates for a long moment, scared of what could happen. Then finally, she presses publish. Meanwhile, Jack's condition is getting worse. The headache is so strong that he can't eat properly and can't even focus on his work. The next morning, he wakes up feeling extremely sick, to the point that he vomits. He asks Hyun to request sick leave for him from school. His friends are shocked. How can one pair of glasses turn his whole condition upside down like this? At school, Hyun temporarily takes over Jack's class and tells the students that Jack is sick. The moment Aeon hears it, guilt begins to press on her chest. Her friends assume she must be happy. After all, Jack is absent, and no one is there to keep cutting her marks for every small thing. But Aeon isn't happy. Not at all. She knows exactly why he is suffering, and her conscience refuses to leave her alone. Later, as she enters the classroom, she sees Sun talking to Jack on the phone, checking on him and promising to tell the class whatever he asked her to say. Aeon tries to listen secretly, but honestly, this girl doesn't know how to hide. Sun notices her immediately, looks at her with disgust, and walks away. As usual, Ayeon can't focus on any lesson. While the teacher explains, her mind is anywhere except the classroom. Then Sun coldly informs everyone that they need to register for activities tomorrow. When Ayeon goes to submit her form, she sees Hyun holding a paper with a picture of Jack's missing glasses. There is even a cash reward for whoever finds them. That is when the guilt hits her even harder. She asks why the glasses are so important, and the answer only makes her feel worse. She realizes this isn't just about a broken item. Jack's health is being affected because of them. So she runs to the trash area, but she arrives too late. The garbage truck has already collected the bags and is driving away. Without thinking, Ayeon grabs her friend's bicycle and chases after it. All along the road, she keeps calling out to the driver, hoping he will hear her and stop. Luckily, after a long chase, the driver finally notices her and pulls over. Ayeon begs him to help her search through the garbage bags. She explains that she threw away her teacher's glasses, and since then, he has been sick. His eyesight could even be in danger. Fortunately, the man turns out to be kind. He helps her search, opening bag after bag with her. Hours pass, and Ayeon keeps digging through the trash, exhausted and filthy, but she refuses to give up. Then finally, she finds them, the broken glasses. Ayeon is so relieved that she starts crying while thanking the driver for allowing her to search. After that, Ayeon comes up with a plan. She sends her little brother to meet Jack and give him the glasses, pretending that he found them while playing. But Jack isn't easy to fool. He notices that the last 4 digits of the boy's phone number match the number of one of his students. The boy, who honestly looks like he'll grow up to become a little gangster, doesn't care about explanations. He simply says, "Do you want the glasses or do you want to keep staring? I brought them, so give me the reward." Jack insists that the boy call his sister, and of course, Ayeon gets exposed. She comes out from behind the plants, caught completely. Jack sends the boy away, then reminds Ayeon that he asked her more than once whether she stepped on his glasses. She had every chance to tell the truth, especially at the parking lot, but she looked him in the eye and lied. Ayeon finally breaks. She explains that she was scared of him. She was afraid he would punish her because she broke the glasses even though it was an accident. She also reminds him that he deducted 4 marks from her unfairly and that he has always treated her harshly. With tears in her eyes, she tells him she knows he hates her. But she didn't know the glasses were that important. She didn't know his health would get worse without them. She admits she regrets what she did. Then she tells him how she chased the garbage truck and searched through trash bags until she found them. And for the first time, Jack seems to soften, maybe because he finally notices her messy clothes, her dirty face, and her ruined hair. She didn't just say sorry, she suffered to fix her mistake. As they walk together, Jack tells her that since she admitted her fault, she still has to compensate him for the glasses. The price is 10 million won. Ayeon almost loses her soul, but then Jack says he can't take money from a student, so instead he gives her another condition. She must attend the evening math classes. To Ayeon, paying the money almost sounds easier than attending extra math. She tries to argue, saying those classes are only for smart girls, but Jack doesn't care. He continues his condition. After every class, she must clean the room and lock it. Before leaving, he gives her the final warning. Wednesday, exactly 5 p.m. If she doesn't show up, she will have to pay the full price of the glasses. At home, Ayeon's little brother refuses to leave her alone until she gives him money for helping her. Of course, he doesn't care about the consequences. He did his part, and now he wants payment. After he leaves, Ayeon starts thinking about everything Jack said. Suddenly, she realizes she can turn all of this into a huge scene for her story. She opens the platform where she published the episode about Jack and freezes. Her story is ranked number 1. Ayeon can't believe it. She slaps herself just to make sure she isn't dreaming, but it's real. Her hidden story, the one she was afraid to publish, has suddenly become popular. That success gives her courage. She immediately starts writing the 2nd episode with full focus, ignoring her friend's group chat, which is busy gossiping about the teachers. Then we see Jack wearing his glasses in their usual broken state, taped together in the middle. He looks completely exhausted, like his health has really started to suffer. As we can see, he can barely sit and eat properly without feeling dizzy or needing medicine. Hyun is sitting with him and clearly notices something is wrong. Wanting to calm things down between Jack and Ion, he gently points out that Jack seems to have the girl constantly on his mind. No matter what she does, he always finds fault with her, keeps yelling at her, arguing with her, and unfairly deducting grades from her for every little thing. Hyun explains that this attitude is wrong and tells him he should treat her the same way he treats the other girls. He even asks if all this has something to do with the filming incident. Honestly, it feels like Hyun is singing and answering himself because Jack barely pays attention to anything except his food. But eventually, Jack finally decides to respond and admits that he knows and is completely certain Ion never filmed them. That leaves Hyun even more confused, so he asks him why he keeps treating her this way if he already trusts her. And here we discover that everyone has been misunderstanding Jack all along. His intentions are actually good. He explains to Hyun that he acts harshly because he wants Ion to feel behind the other girls academically, so she'll focus more on improving her athletic abilities. He firmly states that he will never accept her getting another terrible grade in sports again. He won't stop pushing her until she becomes outstanding in his subject. At that moment, Han joins them for breakfast and explains that for the evening classes in physical education to officially continue, the group must contain at least 5 students. Right now, they only have 4 girls. Han then hints that he heard Ion would be joining his group. Jack looks at him awkwardly, not wanting to crush his excitement, and explains that Ion will only attend the sports theory classes, no games, exercises, or physical activities. Meanwhile, Han suddenly notices that Jack has gotten his glasses back. Jack sarcastically replies, "You're only noticing now? Amazing eyesight." Everyone gets excited because they assume the person who found the glasses must have seen the online post. They ask Jack if he gave a reward to whoever returned them, but Jack arrogantly responds that he sees no reason to reward someone for simply returning what belongs to its owner. Kim instantly gets annoyed by his attitude and tells him, "Man, you should have at least opened your wallet a little. That person practically saved your life. Without those glasses, you couldn't even sit with us because of your headaches." They jokingly warn him that if he keeps refusing to appreciate people, karma might strike him again. Later, we see Ion walking around proudly because the novel episodes she has been posting are exploding with views and engagement. People are praising the writer of the story and impatiently waiting for every new chapter, counting the seconds until the next episode is released. While she's busy staring at her phone, Go suddenly sneaks up and scares her, asking why she's walking around so distracted. Ion doesn't hide the truth and happily tells her that the novel she uploaded is getting incredible reach and readers are demanding the next chapters as quickly as possible. Go becomes curious and asks to read the novel herself, but Ion refuses. That makes Go suspicious, so she jokingly asks if Ion wrote bad things about her in it. Acting innocent and polite, Ion denies it and sweetly tells her, "How could I ever do that to you?" But Go bluntly says that people who write those kinds of stories are usually weird and annoying. Ion simply gives her a look as if to say, "All right already, let's move on from that." Afterward, Ion heads into the teacher's office. The moment Han sees her, he excitedly welcomes her as if his dreams have finally come true because now he'll officially complete the 5-member group and proudly walk around school with his head held high. But his excitement instantly shatters when Ion hands her registration form directly to Jack instead. Han stares at her in complete shock, while Jack quietly watches everything without saying a word. Ion apologizes to Han while forcing herself to smile through obvious frustration. She tells him that if the decision were hers, she would have joined his group. But what can a weak person do against someone powerful? Hearing this, Han immediately asks if someone forced her into it and tells her she can talk to him honestly. For a moment, Ion feels like she finally has the perfect chance to expose Jack, but before she can speak, Jack cuts her off and explains that her sports grades are terrible and she desperately needs improvement. Han tries defending her by insisting she's actually good at physical education, but Jack coldly replies, "Good at what? Laziness and stupidity are written all over her face." Even worse, Ion somehow still has the confidence to argue back and claim she's actually smart. Jack then asks her how many hours she sleeps every day. Embarrassed, she lowers her head and quietly admits that she sleeps for 10 hours. Jack immediately turns to Han with a smug expression that practically says, "See? Now do you believe me?" Han desperately tries to find any excuse to defend her. He explains to Jack that what truly matters is whether she can focus on studying while she's awake. Jack then asks Ayan about her academic ranking, and with her eyes lowered to the floor once again, she quietly admits that she ranks 9th. At that moment, Han instantly regrets defending her in the first place and awkwardly advises her to simply listen to her homeroom teacher, which, of course, is Jack. Meanwhile, Ayan glares at Jack with a deadly expression, her sharp eyes practically creating a whole highway between her eyebrows from how hard she's frowning. Elsewhere, Go is completely zoning out while staring at Hyun during class as he explains a poem. And not just any explanation, the man is passionately analyzing poetry like he's filming a romance movie. After class ends, Go complains to Ayan because Hyun still hasn't used the gift she gave him, which in this case is a chalk holder. Then she shyly admits that she feels like she's definitely going to fall deeply in love with him by the time she turns 20. Ayan casually tells her that by 19, she'll probably already have 10 other crushes anyway. Curious, Ayan asks her what exactly she sees in Hyun that makes him lovable. Go's answer is surprisingly emotional. She says that every time she looks at him, she feels sorry for him, and just seeing his face makes her heart ache. That statement completely crashes Ayan's brain for a second, but then she jokingly tells her that her mother also married her father because she pitied him, so apparently this feeling is perfectly normal. Later during class, Jack suddenly walks in and reminds everyone that whoever is assigned cleaning duty should start cleaning immediately. It quickly becomes obvious that he came specifically because today is Ayan's turn. Go tells Ayan she genuinely doesn't understand why Jack seems especially annoyed by her and constantly targets her. Wanting some emotional support, Ayan asks Go to join the sports group with her so she won't feel alone, but Go immediately refuses, explaining that she'll stand beside her in anything except sports. At the same time, she secretly admires Jack's methods because, according to her, he knows exactly how to punish someone by forcing them to do the thing they hate the most. In the middle of the day, Ayan is cleaning while secretly watching Han from afar, wishing more than anything that she could join his group instead. When Han notices her staring blankly at him, he calls her over and asks what's wrong. As he packs up his sports equipment, he sincerely tells her that she's genuinely talented and that he really wants her on his team. While helping him organize his things, Ayan mentions that he gave up his favorite sport after injuring his leg. She tells him that it must hurt inside whenever he watches his old teammates continue progressing in the sport without him. But Han calmly replies that he knows they succeeded through their own hard work, and instead of being jealous, he's actually happy that they still get to do what they love. What makes him even more admirable is how firmly he says he'll never give up because perseverance is the most important thing to him. At that moment, Ayan quietly reflects to herself that if it weren't for Jack constantly bothering her and forcing her into extra sports classes, she probably would have spent much more time talking with Han and grown closer to him too. From the way she thinks about him, it's becoming obvious that she's either starting to like him, or maybe she already did from the beginning. And as if summoned by fate, Jack suddenly calls her right then and there, asking where she is because the extra class has already started. On top of that, he orders her to come to his office, take the papers he has with him, and distribute them to the other students. Aeon immediately suggests that he ask Sun instead, since she'd probably be thrilled to help him. But Jack's words are basically law, so she quickly apologizes to Han and rushes off like lightning. When she finally arrives at the extra class, she discovers that every top-ranking student is there, except for her. She's clearly the weakest student in the entire room. The moment Sun notices her, she looks confused and asks if Ayan came only to distribute the papers. Embarrassed, Ayan quietly explains that she's actually joining the class too. Sun blurts out, "What? How are you even in our group?" Ayan feels too humiliated to answer because deep down, she knows Sun has a point. Then, with pure sarcasm, Sun informs the others that Ayan scored a miserable 4 points in the subject. After handing out the papers, Ayan decides she's going to leave the classroom no matter what happens. But with her terrible luck, she runs directly into Jack outside the door. Panicking, she immediately turns around and tries to go back inside, but he already notices her. He asks where she thinks she's going, and she honestly tells him that this class doesn't suit her because she's the only weak student there. She explains that she truly hates sports, even though she performs well in every other subject. Jack then asks her how she even managed to score only 4 points in sports. Instantly, she remembers the complete disaster that happened during the exam. In the end, she had basically guessed the answers randomly and somehow failed miserably. Jack angrily explains that sports require patience and dedication to understand properly. Then he points out that she actually is patient. Apparently, her permanent angry glare proves it. Using that logic, he practically pushes her right back into the classroom. Once class begins, Ayan completely zones out and pays attention to absolutely nothing the teacher says. Instead, she focuses on the people around her. For example, she notices Sun applying lipstick, and suddenly a realization hits her. Maybe Sun actually likes Jack, because otherwise, why would she bother putting on lipstick during his class? Meanwhile, Ayan keeps wondering when she'll find time to write the 3rd chapter of her online novel. Eventually, she ends up falling asleep in class until the lesson is almost over. Of course, Jack notices everything. The moment he calls her name, she jumps awake and stands up in panic. Then, completely out of nowhere, he asks her when she plans to write the 3rd chapter. Ayan freezes in shock, wondering how on earth he even knows about the novel. Sun also stares at her in surprise. Jack continues teasing her by saying that in front of her readers she talks endlessly like a parrot, but in sports class she's nothing more than a lazy duck that refuses to move. And that's when we discover the truth. Ayan had actually been dreaming the entire scene while sleeping through class, completely unaware that the lesson had already ended. Ayan suddenly wakes up in shock when Jack slams the book down onto her desk, completely cornering her. What makes it even more embarrassing is that she immediately starts gathering the supplies she never even opened during class. But Jack is far from stupid, and he's definitely not the type to let things slide out of stubbornness. He calmly tells her that she'll be solving the practice exercises related to the lesson they studied today. Since she didn't understand a single thing from the class, she desperately wants him to excuse her from the homework, but Jack simply leaves the decision to her and walks away. And somehow, she's still annoyed about it too. That same night, Ayan goes to Jenny's house because she's been invited over along with a few other girls. Her friends are all there having a small private gathering together. Ayan even brings sweet potatoes with her, and Jenny takes them to roast them properly. While the two of them sit together, Ayan casually asks her if she knows a certain novel. Instantly, Jenny realizes that Ayan has figured her out. The entire story Jenny had told everyone about having a Brazilian boyfriend was completely made up from her imagination all along. Didn't I tell you she looked like a liar? Jenny thanks Ayan for quietly knowing the truth this whole time without exposing her to anyone. Ayan reassures her that it's honestly normal because anyone can get emotionally attached to a beautiful story they read. Jenny then explains that everything she knows about love comes from romantic novels, but she's never actually experienced a real relationship herself. Soon, the two girls start chatting enthusiastically about all the novels they know and love. Afterward, all the girls eat together and genuinely enjoy their time. They keep eating until they're completely full and their stomachs can't handle another bite. Then they sit together admiring the night sky filled with stars. While Ayan is quietly daydreaming, she suddenly imagines Jack's face appearing in one of the stars, asking her whether she's solved the homework or not. The thought scares her so badly that she jumps up in panic after remembering the assignment she was supposed to finish. She feels upset because she doesn't have enough time to enjoy herself with her friends, but in the end, she decides to stay and continue hanging out with them anyway, convincing herself that the homework can wait. The next day, she shamelessly goes to Jack and apologizes for not doing the assignment. He asks her whether she at least tried solving it, but she stands there speechless, unable to come up with a single answer. Jack explains that this subject requires focus and attention, and she'll never understand it if she refuses to concentrate. He admits that he thought even solving one problem would push her to think more deeply about the rest of the material, but now he realizes he was wrong. He coldly tells her that she's completely hopeless and describes her as a lost cause, even adding that he's disappointed in her. Ayan quietly apologizes before walking away, but surprisingly, his harsh words don't affect her at all. Instead, she walks away muttering to herself, "What exactly did he expect from me for his hopes to be crushed this badly?" The only thing making her happy is the fact that their conversation gave her several new phrases she can use in the 3rd chapter of her novel. Later, she heads to the library and starts writing the 4th chapter. Once she finishes, she happily saves the file on the computer, feeling proud of herself. But suddenly, she notices a familiar scent in the library, a smell she doesn't usually notice there, yet somehow recognizes instantly. Her heart immediately tells her that the scent belongs to Jack. Terrified, she hesitates to turn around because she's scared she'll actually find him standing there. And that's exactly what happens. Just as she tries to close the laptop, Jack stops her and pushes the computer back toward himself so he can read what she wrote. That's when he discovers the pen name she uses to publish her chapters online. He calmly sits there reading the novel, while Ion stands behind him completely frozen with fear, terrified of how he'll react once he sees the ridiculous content she wrote. Content almost as wild as the permanent angry expression on her face. Feeling embarrassed, she keeps wondering why he's always focused on her specifically and why he keeps appearing everywhere like some kind of ghost. After finishing the chapter, Jack simply asks, "What is this?" Ion immediately pretends to act innocent, claiming she was shocked to find those writings saved on her laptop and pretending she has no idea who wrote them. She even acts as if she's wondering who could possibly enjoy writing such terrible things. But Jack already knows perfectly well that she's the author. He compares her to someone who drinks alcohol and then denies it, even while the smell is still obvious on their breath. Then he realizes the novel is actually about the four of them, him and his friends. He even notices that she directly copied some of the words he personally said to her and inserted them into the story. Jack points out that there's no way all of this could just be coincidence or his imagination. Ion nervously explains that the story simply came naturally to her and people ended up loving it. But Jack warns her that there are limits she shouldn't cross, then orders her to delete the entire thing immediately. However, Ion flat out refuses. At that moment, she'd rather die than erase even a single word from her story. She desperately begs him not to make her delete it because it's the first thing she's ever written that people genuinely loved and waited eagerly to continue reading. When Jack sees how determined she is not to delete it herself, he tells her he'll have to do it personally. That completely terrifies her, so she starts frantically trying to stop him until the laptop suddenly locks itself and asks for the password. Only then does she finally feel safe. And that's when we realize just how important this novel truly is to her. She literally drops to her knees, begging him to forget the idea of deleting it. She promises that she'll study sports seriously and even become one of the top students if he spares the novel. Crying nonstop, she keeps apologizing while Jack calmly adjusts her posture so he can properly watch her dramatic acting performance, which honestly isn't convincing him at all. Half an hour passes with her still crying and begging, her heart aching from desperation, while Jack remains completely unmoved. In the end, Jack gives her one final warning. If she refuses to delete the novel, then he'll expose everything to her parents and the principal, including all the embarrassing things she wrote about them. He coldly points out that once the truth comes out, every teacher and student in the school will know about it. Honestly, he can't understand why she insists on doing something she'd be too ashamed to admit publicly. In his opinion, if something would only bring her humiliation, then it's better not to do it at all. Ion returns home completely miserable. She doesn't want to delete the novel, but at the same time, she's terrified of anyone discovering her secret. She can't even imagine how the people around her would react if they learned the truth. Soon, her imagination completely spirals out of control. She pictures Go and all her friends abandoning her after discovering who she really is. She imagines her mother disowning her, while the teachers threaten her and act disgusted by her existence. Even her father, the man she inherited this cursed writing talent from, is desperately trying to calm everyone down and convince them that his daughter isn't mentally unstable, insisting that it's just youthful foolishness and an overactive imagination. Her mind becomes so dramatic that she even imagines the teachers physically grabbing her while Jack stands there ready to cut off her hands. Only then does she finally snap back to reality and decide that she'll do absolutely anything as long as nobody discovers her secret. But the thing that frustrates her the most is the fact that the person who exposed her was Jack. The next morning, the moment she arrives at school, she finds Jack waiting for her like he had perfectly scheduled his timing around her arrival. He calmly tells her to follow him, then takes her into the counseling room. Sitting across from him, Ion honestly explains just how passionate she is about writing novels. And to be fair, Jack isn't actually against writing itself. His real problem is the terrible content she's writing. He firmly explains that he won't allow her to continue writing stories like this because they're irritating, just like her constant angry glare. But then, the idiot suddenly reveals that he's upset about something completely different too. He asks her why she didn't make him the main character of the story. Not only that, but he points out that he's always ranked first in real life, so why did she make him the lowest ranked character in the novel? Ion sits there completely confused. One second he's demanding that she delete the story, and the next second he's upset because his role wasn't important enough. Jack then orders her to change the content and rewrite the story so he becomes the main character. On top of that, he declares that from now on, he'll personally review every chapter before it gets published. Before leaving, he gives her two choices: either delete the story entirely or rewrite it according to his edits and conditions. With no other option left, she reluctantly agrees. Afterward, Jack heads to the principal's office and finds his fellow teachers gathered there. The principal informs them that a major television channel will soon visit the school to film a feature about a successful educational program called The Successful One. She explains that she needs them to serve as the school's official representatives and participate in all the interviews and media coverage. All the teachers become excited about the opportunity, except Jack. He politely tells her that he's willing to support the school however she wants, but he refuses to appear on camera. After apologizing, he leaves the office. Kim immediately promises the principal that he'll try to convince him, while the principal practically begs him to succeed, because if Jack refuses, it could create a huge problem for the school. Later, the three teachers sit together at home completely stressed, unable to figure out what to do. They're convinced that if this situation fails, they might actually get fired from the school. Kim tries once again to talk some sense into Jack, but it still leads nowhere. Meanwhile, Ion remains trapped in her own dilemma. Her readers are desperately waiting for the fourth chapter, but at the same time she hates the idea of writing something that Jack will personally read and edit. She arrives at school still lost in thought, only to be shocked when Jack immediately asks her about the next chapter. From that moment on, every time she sees him somewhere, she instantly changes direction and avoids him completely. Go notices this behavior and points out that Ion seems to run away whenever Jack appears nearby. Of course, Ion stays silent because what exactly is she supposed to say? Eventually, she finishes writing the chapter, and Jack begins reviewing it and making changes. The moment Ion sees his edits, she practically loses her mind. She stands there feeling like her life's hard work is being destroyed right in front of her eyes. Then Jack casually calls her over and arrogantly explains that his character role should be much more important and unique, telling her to make him stand out as if there's nobody else like him in the world. Ion glares at him furiously, looking like she's 1 second away from screaming, "I swear I'm going to make you a lesson for humanity." But then, while sitting there angrily, a brilliant idea suddenly crosses her mind. Jack has only been reviewing the original draft file on her laptop. That means she can simply change the version that gets uploaded online instead. The moment he leaves, she immediately rushes to publish the unedited version before he can stop her. Ion sat in front of her computer, staring at the episode upload screen while whispering to herself, "What's the worst that could happen if I post it with all the things I'm really thinking?" She was completely confident Jack would never bother watching the episode after it was uploaded, so without overthinking it any longer, she pressed the OK button. But what our little writer didn't know was that Jack never missed a single episode she uploaded. Not only that, he practically camped inside the app waiting for her new uploads to appear. The moment the episode went live, he watched it immediately. And the second he realized none of the edits he demanded had been done, the shock on his face turned into pure fury. Sparks almost flew from his eyes as he muttered coldly, "Just wait, Ion. I'll make you regret this." And judging from that look on his face, he was already planning something that would make her hate herself even more than she already did. The next morning, Jack sat at breakfast with his friends, while Kim kept trying to casually start a conversation that would eventually lead to convincing Jack to join the filming project. Joe jumped in dramatically, saying, "Seriously, have you ever seen a math teacher as talented as Jack? Our alpha right here is a genius." Through all the praise and jokes, Jack stayed completely calm and silent, fully aware that every word had an ulterior motive behind it. So instead of responding, he pretended not to notice, letting them talk freely while he calmly sipped his coffee and reviewed his prepared lessons like a king sitting on his throne. But after developing a headache, he simply got up and walked back to his room, leaving the others completely disappointed. Of course, deep down, they already knew Jack would always do whatever he wanted anyway. Still, they kept brainstorming together, trying to figure out another way to deal with the situation. The following day, the school was buzzing with preparations for the television program. The students were excitedly interacting with the filming crew because, after all, they were teenagers, and the idea of appearing on TV thrilled them beyond belief. Meanwhile, the principal went around warning all the teachers to behave elegantly and politely until the entire event was over. Then she cornered Jack and reminded him to do what they had agreed on. Jack simply looked at her and calmly pointed out that they had never agreed on anything in the first place. Realizing persuasion was useless with him, the principal later sat privately with Kim, who confidently assured her he already had a solution. He hinted that if kindness didn't work, then they would have to open some eyes another way. At that moment, the music teacher entered dramatically like he was performing at a grand opera house, wearing a suit as if he were the legendary Omar Khairat himself. The principal complimented his outfit politely, and after Kim left, the teacher proudly explained that his performance today would be so magnificent it would make their school one of the wonders of the world. Smiling sweetly, the principal handed him a glass of juice, secretly mixed with sleeping pills. She needed him unconscious until the television program ended because the school already had enough problems without him creating another public disaster. Later, the teacher suddenly fell asleep exactly as she planned, and it turned out she treated him so gently because he was actually her nephew. Elsewhere, Kim called Ion over and gestured for her to come closer. She looked around in disbelief as if asking, "Do you seriously have nobody else to bother?" Then, Kim dropped the bombshell. He wanted her to secretly place a camera and film Jack while he was teaching. Terrified, Aeon instantly refused. She reminded him that Jack already couldn't stand her under normal circumstances, so if he discovered the hidden camera, he would never forgive her. But Kim kept changing tactics. First, he told her she could consider this an apology to Jack for writing that punishment letter during his class. When that failed, he played the sympathy card instead, telling her that if she didn't help them, the principal would fire all 4 of them from the school. He claimed they would end up homeless and jobless because of her. Ion became trapped in a painful dilemma. Should she help them and ruin herself, or ignore everything and let them all get fired? In the end, she reluctantly agreed after Kim revealed that he already knew her secret and had simply been pretending otherwise the whole time. Naturally, the only secret that instantly came to her mind was the embarrassing web novels she secretly wrote. Kim then made a deal with her. He would keep her secret hidden as long as she did what he asked. After he left, Ayan sat there completely stunned, unable to understand how he had discovered her novels in the first place. The only explanation she could think of was that Jack must have exposed her, even though, in reality, Jack had never told anyone about it. Meanwhile, the principal was losing her mind over the TV program. She rushed from classroom to classroom, making sure all the students sat properly so they would look perfect on camera. During her inspection, she noticed G asleep on her desk and not even wearing the school uniform. When asked why she came dressed improperly, G explained that oil had spilled all over her uniform and it was still being washed. The principal coldly replied that she should have worn it anyway, even if it was still wet. Then, acting dramatically, she ordered G to bring her desk and follow her. So the poor girl literally lifted the desk along with the chair and carried it behind the principal. At that moment, Jack noticed them and immediately called out, asking where she was taking his student. Pulling him aside, the principal argued that G slept through classes all the time anyway, so missing one lesson wouldn't matter. But Jack refused completely. He firmly insisted that no student of his would leave his classroom before the school day ended. The two stubbornly stood their ground until the filming crew suddenly appeared, forcing the principal to abandon the argument and rush back to her office. Soon, the television program officially began, and the students repeated their rehearsed lines exactly the way the principal instructed them to. At the same time, Kim continued pressuring Ion to carry out the hidden camera plan. Eventually, he left her alone with the camera before walking away. Right then, Jack arrived, and Ion quietly slipped back into her classroom. During class, her nervousness was painfully obvious. Fear consumed her as she imagined the consequences of what she was about to do. For the first time ever, she slowly raised her hand and asked Jack if she could ask him a question. Of course, there was no way she intended to ask anything related to math. What she really wanted to know was why someone like him chose to become a high school teacher instead of teaching at a famous university. When Jack refused to answer Ion's question, the rest of the class immediately started pressuring him too. Only then did he finally agree to explain his reasons, thinking maybe his experiences and academic journey could teach them something valuable. He was just about to begin speaking when he suddenly froze mid-sentence. His eyes locked onto a camera sitting on the shelf, and honestly, it was ridiculously obvious, especially with the glowing red recording light blinking on it. Instantly, Jack realized Ion was behind the whole thing. Then he noticed the second hidden camera inside her pencil case, and his expression darkened with anger. Ion panicked immediately, completely overwhelmed by the disaster unfolding in front of her. This was the last thing she needed right now. Without saying much, Jack grabbed her and pulled her outside the classroom. Nervously, she tried explaining that it wasn't her idea and that Kim had forced her into it. She told him Kim claimed they would all get fired from the school if the filming didn't happen. Furious, Jack stormed straight into the teacher's office and confronted Kim aggressively, demanding to know who gave him the right to invade his privacy and force his opinions onto him like this. Han quickly stepped in, trying desperately to calm both sides down before things escalated further. But because Jack absolutely hated being forced into anything, he suddenly pulled the memory card out of the camera and snapped it in half without hesitation. At that exact moment, the principal arrived and asked to speak with him privately. Meanwhile, Aeon sat there feeling miserable and confused, unable to understand why Jack hated being filmed so much. That was when Han finally explained the truth to her. When Jack was younger, he had been a mathematical prodigy, and because of his talent, he was kidnapped by a mentally unstable person. Honestly, anyone would still carry trauma after something like that. Since then, Jack hated cameras because deep down he feared that person might still be watching him somewhere. Hearing this made Ion's heart sink with guilt. She suddenly realized how horribly unfair she had been to him and had no idea how she could possibly apologize for what she'd done. At the same time, the principal spoke to Jack bluntly, without sugarcoating anything. She told him that if he planned to reject every request made by the school, then perhaps he should simply sign the suspension papers and stop working there altogether. For the first time, Jack became visibly tense and fell silent. In the end, the pressure forced him to accept the school's demands. Even afterward, he tried acting normal and convincing himself to ignore the fact that cameras were now filming him constantly. But Ion couldn't stop blaming herself for putting him in that situation. Elsewhere, the maestro finally woke up from his drugged sleep and found the principal relaxing on a massage chair, trying to recover from the stress of the entire day. The moment he discovered the television program had already ended and the filming crew had left, he nearly lost his mind. He ran to the window to check for himself and started shouting dramatically, "Don't leave! My dreams of stardom." Afterward, he wandered around the school humming sadly until the principal yelled at him from the window, "Are you trying to summon snakes with that horrible flute noise of yours?" Later, Jack walked through the hallway looking deeply frustrated because he had been forced into something against his will. Ion followed closely behind him, struggling to find the courage to start a conversation, especially since he clearly didn't want to speak to her. Still, she forced herself to apologize sincerely. She explained that if she had known about his trauma with cameras, she would never have agreed to do something like that in the first place. To her surprise, Jack calmly admitted that when she asked him that question in class earlier, he had actually felt happy for a moment. He genuinely thought she had finally started taking an interest in mathematics. He even ignored the fact that her question had nothing to do with the lesson, because to him it felt like she was finally changing for the better. He confessed that he was truly planning to answer her honestly until she betrayed his trust. His words crushed her completely. While apologizing again, Ion suddenly grabbed her stomach in pain. At first, Jack assumed she was pretending, so he coldly told her to stop acting. But after only a few steps, she collapsed onto the ground, unable to endure the pain anymore. The moment he realized her suffering was real, panic instantly took over him. Not knowing what else to do, he quickly picked her up and ran with her all the way to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, the doctors bombarded him with questions about how long she'd been in pain and what food she had eaten that day. The problem was, Jack genuinely knew nothing about her personal life. He had no idea what she ate, what she drank, or anything about her daily habits. Seeing all the doctors surrounding her and rushing her into the emergency room alone was enough to terrify him into thinking the situation was extremely serious. To make matters worse, another patient's guardian spoke to him nearby and, instead of reassuring him, casually mentioned that anyone taken into that room must obviously be in critical condition. Naturally, Jack became even more anxious since he had never experienced anything like this before. Then he noticed a nurse leaving Ian's room carrying a huge black bag, which only made his imagination spiral further out of control. Hours later, the doctors finally allowed him to see her. Ian explained tearfully that she had been suffering from loss of appetite and indigestion for a while now. She was completely convinced she had cancer because she once saw a patient on television with similar symptoms. Crying dramatically, she lamented her terrible fate and sobbed that she was only 18 years old and still wanted to live longer. Then she started going full drama queen mode, talking about how she still dreamed of saving money and traveling the world someday. Just as she was about to continue her emotional speech, the doctors walked in with her test results. The female doctor asked her why she hadn't come to the hospital earlier. Terrified, Ayan begged Jack to call her mother immediately while pleading with the doctors to save her life no matter what. Concerned, Jack nervously asked the doctor whether her condition was truly serious, and then the doctor calmly replied, "She's constipated." The entire room fell completely silent. The doctor then explained the scan results, saying that her colon had become exhausted from severe constipation, which caused the painful cramps she experienced. Suddenly, Jack remembered the large black bag the nurse had carried out earlier and finally understood what it had been for. Before leaving, the doctor informed Ayan that she could go home that very night. Completely humiliated in front of Jack, Ayan buried her face under the blanket and desperately begged him not to tell anyone about what happened. Jack simply reassured her softly, telling her not to worry. Jack left Ayan's bag beside her hospital bed while looking completely exhausted, barely able to walk after the chaos and stress he had endured all day. But shortly after he left, Ayan's parents finally arrived at the hospital to check on her. Meanwhile, Jack's friends were feeling uncomfortable because of the tension between him and Kim. To be fair, the rest of the group believed Kim was definitely in the wrong and should have asked for Jack's permission before doing something like that. Because of this, they all encouraged Kim to apologize properly once Jack returned home. Thankfully, Kim was mature enough to admit his mistake. He confessed that he crossed the line by interfering in matters that weren't his and by trying to solve the principal's problem without respecting Jack's wishes. When Jack finally arrived, Han and Hyun immediately got up to prepare food for him, hoping it would help smooth things over between the two boys. Kim apologized sincerely, and because he was actually well-mannered despite everything, he even complimented Jack's performance during the filming. He openly admitted that he had disrespected Jack's boundaries when he confidently told the principal he would handle things. Luckily, they eventually moved past the incident and started treating each other normally again, as if nothing had happened. At the same time, Ayan sat at home dying from embarrassment. After all that terrifying pain and drama, it turned out she had only been suffering from constipation. But strangely enough, despite the humiliation, she couldn't stop thinking about Jack's reaction. The way he panicked for her, carried her in his arms, and ran her to the hospital stayed stuck in her mind. She kept replaying the moment over and over, realizing he was far kinder and gentler than she had originally thought. Then, of course, reality hit her again, and she returned to drowning in embarrassment. The next morning, while walking to school, she ran into Jack just as he was leaving the house. She was so embarrassed she could barely even greet him properly. But instead of letting her escape quietly, Jack casually started talking to her about the causes of constipation and how to prevent it. Completely mortified, Ayan awkwardly thanked him and promised she would keep that advice in mind. Unfortunately for her, the story had already spread among the teachers. They all started giving her endless advice about drinking water and going to the bathroom regularly. She looked at them like she was 1 second away from screaming, "Seriously? You people finally found someone to bully and won't let it go." Later, she confronted Kim about the secret he claimed to know about her. That was when he shamelessly admitted he had been bluffing the entire time just to force her into taking the camera. But the humiliation didn't stop there. While driving away, Kim leaned out the car window and loudly yelled at her to drink more water so she wouldn't get constipated and end up in the emergency room again. At that point, he looked like one of those street vendors driving around with a loudspeaker attached to their car. Back in class, Jack approached Ion and asked why G still hadn't come to school. The problem was that Ion genuinely didn't know the answer herself. Jack then told her she needed to put more effort into looking after G, and because of the recent situation, he calmly deducted 4 points from her grade. Ion tried explaining that G was basically like a stray cat, the type that never lets anyone get close no matter how hard they try. When Ion entered the classroom later, she sat beside Jenny and complained about losing points because of G's absence. In the middle of their conversation, G suddenly walked into class. Nervously, Ion hinted that she should have arrived a little earlier, but G, in her usual silent and cold style, simply stared at her, then laid her head down and went straight to sleep again. At another time, Hyun entered the classroom to announce a literature and novel writing competition. He asked who would represent the school, and immediately the girls pointed toward Ion. Since Ion knew Go had a crush on Hyun, she quickly redirected the attention by praising Go's artistic talent instead. Hyun agreed and decided Go would also participate in the art competition. Later that day, poor Ion ended up cleaning the classroom as punishment. While she worked, Hyun approached her and asked whether she was still being punished because of the deducted grades. Then he sat beside her and gently reassured her that Jack already knew she hadn't actually filmed him. He explained that Jack only acted strict because he didn't want her overthinking things or believing he was punishing her over the camera incident. To encourage her, Hyun shared that ever since middle school, he had loved writing novels and stories himself. Hearing this made Ion excitedly admit that she also wrote stories and had even completed a novel already. Of course, because her novel was an absolute disaster in her own opinion, she didn't dare explain what it was about. Instead, she shyly asked him for advice on how to write a story that truly captivates readers. Hyun told her the key was to give every character their own importance and unique identity so each one would leave a lasting impression. Elsewhere, Go arrived carrying milk for both herself and Ion. But the moment she saw Ion sitting alone with Hyun, laughing happily beside him, jealousy instantly filled her heart. Later in class, she sulkily asked Ion where she had been. Completely oblivious to her jealousy, Ion casually explained that she had been talking with Hyun about how he used to write stories when he was younger and how talented and hardworking he truly was. That same evening, Ion originally planned to study rational numbers for math class, but after sitting down, she completely abandoned studying and started writing the 5th chapter of her novel instead. In her mind, it became, forget studying and forget the stress. The only problem was that she had no idea where to begin. Her thoughts were messy, confused, and completely all over the place. Meanwhile, Jack was walking with his friends when he suddenly asked them to go ahead without him because he wanted to stop by the library first. There, Ion nervously handed him the latest chapter of her novel so he could read it and tell her his opinion. After finishing it, Jack stayed completely silent. His reaction confused her because he didn't complain about how much she exaggerated his role in the story, nor did he request any edits this time. Eventually, she became impatient and asked him directly, "Well, teacher, aren't you going to tell me what you think?" But Jack still said nothing. He simply stood up and walked away. Ion quickly gathered her things and followed him. The entire walk, she kept staring at him, desperately waiting for him to say literally anything. Suddenly, Jack stopped walking. Without even looking at her, he quietly asked what was still bothering her. Ion almost wanted to tell him that all her thoughts revolved around him lately. Instead, she admitted she still felt guilty about his broken glasses and the fact that he was forced to keep wearing them until his new pair was ready. But Jack calmly reassured her that none of it was her fault because she never intended to break them in the first place. Then he suddenly asked her whether she still hated mathematics and had completely given up on it. Sadly, she answered honestly with a quiet yes. To her surprise, Jack then told her that from now on, she was free to write her novel however she wanted, and he would no longer review or correct anything she wrote. Ion became genuinely happy and confessed that ever since he discovered her secret, she had lived in constant fear that he would expose her to everyone around them. She admitted she truly thought her entire life was over back then. Naturally, she couldn't help asking what made him suddenly change his mind. That was when Jack told her the story of the ancient mathematician Pythagoras. He explained that Pythagoras was once the only person who understood irrational numbers, and he struggled greatly before finally sharing that knowledge with the world around him. But then, one day, his life suddenly ended without warning because of another person's actions. Confused, Ion asked, "Who would even have a reason to harm a math scientist?" Jack finally looked at her and quietly replied, "Because I'm going to try understanding irrational numbers too." We find Ion sitting on the bus, completely lost in thought, after Jack told her he would try to understand irrational numbers. The poor girl's blood pressure is practically exploding because she has no idea what he really meant by those words. And honestly, she has every right not to trust him. Every single time, he comes up with a punishment more terrifying than the last. Then we discover that Jack is actually sitting right behind her on the bus the whole time. He suddenly starts questioning her like she is sitting in an interrogation room and asks in a cold tone, "So, what exactly are you thinking about?" Nervously, Ion asks him why Pythagoras killed one of his students. But the way Jack reacts makes it feel like he is defending his own father. He stares at her and says, "Don't you know why he got rid of him? To protect his world from collapsing." Since our girl is a writer with a wild imagination, she immediately drifts into a fantasy where they are living in the 5th century BC. She pictures herself wearing an ancient wig that honestly looks more like a broom than actual hair, but somehow it is still better than her real hairstyle. In her imagination, she becomes a student from the ancient era while Jack transforms into Pythagoras himself. The two of them begin debating irrational numbers, and as always, Ion imagines Jack as either an idiot or a complete weirdo, but when she challenges his ideas, he calmly asks her to prove her argument. She successfully shows him that his theory cannot work, so he asks if anyone else knows this information. Once she tells him he is the only one who knows, he suddenly relaxes. Then, in her dramatic imagination, he slowly grabs her by the neck with both hands, trying to strangle her so her secret dies along with her. Ion suddenly snaps out of her creepy fantasy looking terrified of Jack. Meanwhile, he keeps talking seriously about how the existence of irrational numbers could throw the entire world into chaos. At that moment, Ion becomes fully convinced that Jack is completely obsessed with mathematics. The sparkle in his eyes whenever he talks about it is honestly enough proof on its own, and according to her, that obsession is genuinely terrifying. After getting off the bus, Ion keeps secretly following behind Jack. Even though his personality is scary, she cannot deny that he is incredibly handsome. Since Madam here is completely distracted by him and paying attention to nothing else, she suddenly trips and falls in the most embarrassing way possible. But Jack remains unbelievably calm and does not even bother helping her up. Looking at her through his glasses, he casually asks, "Are you okay?" While the girl is literally standing there in pain holding her knee. "At least show a little sympathy, man." But he makes it even worse by saying she probably got distracted imagining one of the weird stories she writes. Then he points out how often she keeps embarrassing herself around him lately. Ion quickly explains that she obviously does not do it on purpose because she is not crazy enough to humiliate herself willingly. Generously enough, Jack advises her to focus more on her creativity and even promises to support her. When Ion finally gets home, their dog runs toward her excitedly and circles around her as if it is saying, "I missed you so much." Her mother then greets her with what she calls golden advice, telling her to hurry to the bathroom before she ends up constipated and forces them to spend the night in the emergency room again. Honestly, Ion just wants to know why her family is always so obsessed with her going to the bathroom, but her mother gets annoyed and tells her to remember how bad her condition became last time. Then, without warning, her mom suddenly changes the topic to Jack. She says she wants to personally visit the school and thank him for taking Ion to the hospital. At that point, Ion almost asks her what exactly she wants from her today, but instead she desperately begs her not to do that because she already thanked him many times. She also tries convincing her that Jack has a cold personality and hates talking too much with people. In reality, she is just terrified that he might expose the strange novels she writes. The weirdest part is that Ion suddenly catches herself defending him, saying that yes, he is strict, but he is actually kind, responsible, and not a bad person at all. Even she becomes shocked hearing those words come out of her own mouth, especially because Hyun once described Jack the exact same way. Later, while standing in the bathroom, Aeon starts talking to herself like a complete lunatic. She cannot understand how she suddenly began defending Jack and seeing him as a good person. It turns into a full argument between her and her own reflection about Jack's pros and cons. Once she realizes things are getting out of control, she slaps herself across the face to wake herself up and stop acting stupid. Then she makes a serious promise to herself in the mirror that starting tomorrow, she will neither look at Jack nor speak to him ever again. The next morning, Kim keeps provoking Jack non-stop during breakfast, practically shoving the spoon into his mouth with irritation. He is upset because Dong, who used to study with Jack in middle school, became famous after winning a medal. Kim believes Jack deserved that achievement far more than she did. The others honestly cannot tell whether he is genuinely worried about his friend or simply jealous of Dong. He asks Jack how he can stay so calm without feeling even a little jealous. What is impressive about Jack is that he lets everyone talk all they want while staying completely unbothered like a true prince. He casually explains that he quit the Olympics when he was young and also never studied abroad the way Dong did. His friends keep begging Kim to let Jack finish eating in peace, but Kim acts like he will not calm down until Jack loses his mind. Finally, Hyun gets irritated and tells Kim to shut up about that stupid medal already. Honestly, Jack's patience is unbelievable because Kim keeps annoying him non-stop while Jack quietly focuses on his toasted bread. At the same time, Aeon is wandering around near the teachers' dorms because she secretly wants to walk to school with Jack. She keeps wondering when he will come outside. Then she overhears Hyun calling for his friends and saying that Jack already left a while ago. Panicking, Aeon immediately runs to school because she is scared Jack will get upset if she arrives after him. Luckily, she reaches the classroom before he enters, and the same girl who spent all night promising not to look at him becomes completely distracted by every tiny detail about him. She stares at his hair while he fixes it. When he rolls up his sleeves, she gets lost watching him again. Even when he adjusts his glasses, she quietly admires how long and elegant his hands look. At this point, our teacher madam has become so enchanted by him that she literally cannot see a single flaw anymore. Every movement he makes catches her attention until she finally snaps back to reality and scolds herself to get a grip. Later, Aeon talks to Go and asks what someone should do if they start liking a guy they absolutely should not fall for. Go explains that what Aeon is experiencing is called denial. Apparently, Aeon always acts like this whenever she likes a celebrity or someone handsome. She pretends they are not her type at all, even when she is obviously obsessed. The problem has become so bad that whenever she starts liking someone, she immediately denies her own feelings. Then Aeon suddenly admits that this situation is impossible because she simply cannot like him. Meanwhile, innocent Go has no idea who the mysterious guy even is. As they are walking into the classroom, they run into the overly relaxed Jenny, who excitedly tells them that she already submitted a request for a school trip. Then she starts listing a ridiculous number of places they are supposedly going to visit all in a single day. Go looks at her in disbelief and asks whether she secretly has unlimited energy to visit all those places in just 24 hours. Later, the girls are sitting together in the library talking when Hyun suddenly arrives. The moment he appears, Aeon immediately gets up to speak with him. But what catches our attention is the expression on Go's face. The second she sees the two of them talking together, jealousy quietly starts creeping into her heart. She suddenly remembers another time when she saw them sitting together, laughing and chatting happily, and it is painfully obvious that the memory still bothers her. Deep down, she has started suspecting that there might actually be something between Aeon and Hyun. After Hyun leaves, Go casually points out that the two of them seem to have gotten pretty close lately. Aeon quickly explains that she only asks Hyun for advice about her novel and that she simply wanted his opinion on another title idea. But while listening, Go drifts off into thought and remembers when Aeon confessed that she liked someone she should never fall for. At that moment, all her suspicions begin pointing directly toward Hyun. Meanwhile, Aeon is sitting in front of her laptop at home, thinking about Jack again. The moment his voice echoes in her mind, she suddenly feels inspired as if hearing him somehow improves her writing. Once she starts working on her story, she unconsciously places herself into the scene while Jack appears out of nowhere to save her from a dangerous gang. When she rereads what she wrote, she becomes completely shocked, wondering how Jack somehow managed to invade her thoughts this deeply. What she does not know is that Dong, Jack's old friend, has just sent him a message asking to meet up. They are simply longtime friends and nothing more, but of course Aeon knows absolutely none of that. The next day, Go becomes upset once again after seeing Ayeon laughing together with Hyun. This time, she fully convinces herself that something is going on between them. When Ayeon notices that Go seems bothered, she calls out to her, and Go immediately says they need to talk. She directly asks why Ayeon was standing with Hyun again. Ayeon explains that she was only showing him the title of her poem. Go then complains that Ayeon did not bring her along while talking to him. Ayeon tells her she honestly thought it was not a big deal and figured there would be another chance later. But Go's tone starts sounding more like an accusation than concern. She asks whether Ayeon truly believes her feelings for Hyun are not important, when she obviously keeps finding excuses just to greet him. Then Go suddenly asks the real question, "Is Hyun the guy you said you liked?" Ayeon cannot believe her closest childhood friend would suspect her like that. Go explains that constantly seeing her with Hyun is enough evidence already, but what increases her suspicions even more is when she asks Ayeon to reveal the name of the person she likes, only for Ayeon to stay silent. Since Ayeon is still acting mysterious, she begs Go to trust her and asks her never to ask that question again. She reminds her that she has never lied to her before. Hearing that, Go sadly says that love must have blinded her so much that she started doubting her own best friend. After that painful conversation, the two girls walk into class without saying another word to each other. That same night, Ayeon cannot sleep because she feels heartbroken over the fight between them. She quietly stares at old photos of them together and desperately wishes they can reconcile soon. On their day off, we find Ayeon standing outside Jack's house without even knowing whether he is inside or already left, especially since Han had just walked out moments earlier. Honestly, the girl is only one tiny step away from completely losing her mind, because somehow her feet brought her all the way to Jack's house just so she could see him. Thankfully, she finally regains a little sanity and decides to sit in a cafe to study instead. But unfortunately for her, even the words inside the textbook start reminding her of Jack. At this point, she realizes she has already entered the dangerous road of falling in love, the kind of road people never return from. Then, while drinking her coffee, she suddenly spots Jack sitting right across from her in the same cafe. Shocked, she blurts out, "What? Are you following me or something?" Thanks to her wild imagination, she instantly convinces herself that he specifically came to this cafe because he likes her and wanted to see her. In her head, even their matching drinks become proof that fate is connecting them together. She thinks it is unbelievably sweet that he ordered the exact same drink as hers, but the poor girl has no idea he is not even talking to her. Suddenly, another girl walks over to Jack, and Ayeon freezes when she realizes he was actually there to meet her. At that moment, Ayeon cannot even describe the strange pain she feels inside. Everything suddenly becomes painfully clear to her. Only now does she truly understand the meaning of having someone precious to your heart. We then see her staring sadly at Jack and Dong together as if Jack had already promised to marry her or something. Dong happily tells Jack she is glad to see him again and says she still cannot believe he became a teacher because he never once mentioned being interested in teaching. She always thought he would continue down the path of scientific research instead. On the other side, Ayeon watches them laughing together and feels even more miserable. At the same cafe, the music teacher also happens to be there, and unfortunately he completely exposes Ayeon by loudly shouting, "Ayeon, what are you doing here?" His loud voice immediately makes Jack and Dong turn toward them. Then the teacher walks over to greet Jack and quickly recognizes Dong as the famous medal winner he saw on the news. He sits down with them and asks how they know each other. Dong explains that she and Jack have been friends since middle school, but the teacher refuses to believe it is that simple. Since they met on a holiday, he insists it must obviously be a romantic date. Meanwhile, Ayeon is still standing there wondering why she has not run away yet. But because Jack hates unnecessary nonsense, he simply takes Dong and leaves. Before going, the music teacher tells Ayeon she should work harder if she wants to become successful, like Dong. Ayeon secretly follows behind them until Jack walks Dong all the way to her car. At that moment, Ayeon suddenly appears and introduces herself to Dong as one of Jack's students. Dong jokingly tells Jack, "I still can't believe you actually have students. Teachers are supposed to be old." Since Ayan is incredibly nosy, she asks whether Dong studied with Jack in university. Dong explains that they were actually friends back in middle school, but Jack quickly ends the conversation and reminds Dong that she should leave already. The funniest part is that Ayan had been standing there the entire time just because she wanted to walk home with Jack. While walking beside him, she keeps praising Dong non-stop, saying she is beautiful, talented, and impressive. She even tells Jack she wishes she had a friend like Dong. Then she points out that a woman like Dong would need a man with incredible confidence to match her level, because any guy dating her would probably feel insecure. Deep down, Ayan is obviously fishing for information to figure out whether Jack and Dong are dating or not, but Jack simply asks why she is so obsessed with other people's business. Then, without warning, he threatens her by saying that if she does not score at least 50 marks in mathematics, he will tell her parents about the novels she writes. The second he says that, Ayan starts running after him, begging him to wait, but Jack completely ignores her. Yet the girl still refuses to give up and keeps asking what he and Dong were talking about earlier. Jack coldly replies that it is none of her business and tells her to focus on herself instead. Honestly, the embarrassment is becoming painful at this point. Then, while they are still together, Ayan's younger brother calls her and asks her to buy him a cola. Before leaving, she quickly tells Jack not to go anywhere and to wait for her. When Ayan comes back, she is surprised to find Jack still standing there waiting for her exactly like she asked. She quickly explains that she only went to buy cola for her little brother. The moment Jack comments that she seems very caring, Ayan immediately complains that her brother is actually blackmailing her into buying him cola all the time. Curious, Jack asks why her brother treats her that way, so she starts telling him the story. She explains that one day she was deeply focused on writing her novel while chatting online with people and sending them parts of the story to hear their opinions. Everyone seemed to love it, but for some reason Ayan felt something was wrong, and sadly, her instincts were correct. When she turned around, she found her younger brother standing behind her after secretly reading the entire novel. The expression on his face looked completely traumatized. Ayan tells Jack that ever since that day, she has been forced to obey every single thing her brother asks for because she is terrified he might expose her stories to their parents. Then Jack suddenly asks her why she loves writing so much. Ayan softly explains that ever since childhood, she has loved reading books and always knew she would eventually dive deeply into writing herself. She tells him she plans to continue down this path, improve her skills, and keep developing herself until one day she reaches results that truly satisfy her. Then she reminds him that when the filming crew visited the school earlier, he never answered the question she asked him about why he chose teaching. But the moment she brings it up, Jack simply reaches his destination and walks away without giving her an answer, as usual, avoiding her questions completely. Meanwhile, after Jack gets home, Kim starts trying to calm the atmosphere, although his version of calming things down is honestly just gossiping even harder. He keeps wondering why Dong suddenly insisted on meeting Jack now after all this time. In Kim's imagination, there must be some beautiful memory connecting the two of them together. Jack completely ignores the nonsense and quietly heads toward his room, but his friends immediately start teasing him. They joke around asking whether he got shy and say they always thought the only thing he knew in life was studying. Han and Kim then start creating an entire fake love story out of absolutely nothing. They imagine that Jack and Dong used to date, broke up, and later reunited again. According to Kim's dramatic theory, that heartbreak is supposedly the real reason Jack withdrew from the Olympics because it must have been too painful for him to compete against the girl he loved. Of course, the entire story is complete nonsense invented by Kim's wild imagination. On the other side, Ayan is sitting alone mocking Dong for saying she could not believe Jack actually had a student. She especially hates the part where Dong told him, "I'll see you again." Feeling jealous, Ayan decides to write a brand new chapter in her novel where she becomes the heroine. Dong becomes the leader of a dangerous gang, and Jack once again appears to rescue her dramatically. Then, as if heaven itself wanted to comfort her, the imaginary Dong refuses to let them leave peacefully and attacks Ayan again, only for Ayan to finally defeat her and take revenge. Apparently, that fantasy ending is satisfying enough for her wounded heart. The next morning at school, Jack starts taking attendance in class, and as usual, Ji is not sitting in her seat. After he finishes calling the names, she suddenly arrives and immediately falls asleep at her desk. But there is a strong smell of alcohol coming from her, and bruises are clearly visible on her hands. Realizing something is seriously wrong, Jack quietly tells her to go see the nurse. As G walks away, the music teacher also notices the smell of alcohol. Since he reports the situation to the principal, G soon ends up standing in the office while Jack is called in as well. The principal angrily questions how a girl from his class could come to school in such a condition without him reporting it immediately. But because Jack does not want G to hear cruel words directly from the principal, he asks her to wait outside first. Then he explains that G lives in an orphanage and that nobody truly understands the pressure and suffering she experiences there. He says the only reason he does not want severe punishment for her is because she is trying to continue her education despite living in such an unfair environment. However, the principal coldly reminds him that she is not a social worker who can look at things from his emotional perspective. In the end, she clearly intends to expel G from the school permanently. After Jack leaves the office, the music teacher casually mentions to the principal that he discovered Dong is actually someone Jack knows personally. The principal immediately starts shouting dramatically as if she has just uncovered some huge secret scandal and says she will force Jack to provide a proper explanation. Later, Jack asks G to write an honest essay explaining her situation without telling any lies. Before leaving, he reassures her that he will reduce her punishment on one condition: she must never be late to class again. Meanwhile, Go is still upset with Ayeon to the point that whenever she notices Ayeon sitting at the same lunch table, she immediately gets up and moves somewhere else. Honestly, the behavior is incredibly irritating. Ayeon keeps trying to talk to her, but every time she approaches her in class, Go simply walks away without listening. Back with Jack, he finds himself thinking deeply about Dong's proposal asking him to work with her on a certain research project. The matter clearly weighs heavily on his mind, so he suddenly grabs his jacket and leaves the house. Hyun notices his strange mood and decides to walk with him for a while. Since Jack has seemed troubled lately, Hyun asks if something is going wrong at work. At the same time, back at home, Ayeon's younger brother once again orders her to buy him cola. When she refuses, he immediately threatens to call their parents downstairs and expose her secrets. So while she is at the market buying the drink, she suddenly spots Jack and Hyun together and immediately runs after them. Meanwhile, Hyun listens carefully after Jack tells him about Dong's offer. Hyun then advises him to take the opportunity and travel to America so he can complete his research there properly. But before the conversation can continue, both boys suddenly hear Ayeon's shocked voice behind them shouting, "Wait, you're going to America?" The moment she says that, complete silence falls over them. Neither Jack nor Hyun answers her. We then see Ayeon walking together with Jack and Hyun. In a hesitant voice, she asks Jack if it is true that he will travel to America to study at one of the top universities. Even while speaking, it is obvious she is upset. She tells him she knows this is an incredible opportunity for him, but she barely gives him a chance to answer before firing question after question at him. How long will he stay there? 1 year? 2 years? Or is he planning to settle there permanently? The moment she realizes she is starting to sound annoying, she quickly tries to cover it up and explains that she is only asking because she wants to know whether he will still be around for her high school graduation or not. Jack just stares at her quietly, almost as if he wants to ask, "Are you planning to come with me or something?" But instead, his legendary response is simply telling her that it is late and she should go home. Hyun, meanwhile, feels bad for her, so he smiles warmly and tells her goodnight. After all, it would be cruel if everyone ignored her completely. Even after the boys leave, Ayeon stays standing in place, silently asking herself when exactly Jack plans to leave. Later that night, while sitting alone in her room, she remembers Hyun convincing Jack that the opportunity is too valuable to waste. That thought only makes her more jealous, especially because Jack would be traveling with that girl who suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Ayeon imagines the two of them together in America, studying side by side and working on research projects together. Honestly, she starts giving herself way too much importance in Jack's life, and it bothers her even more that she only discovered all this by overhearing them by accident. She cannot understand how he could casually say, "Goodbye, girls, I'm leaving for America." But thankfully, she eventually calms herself down and remembers that, in the end, he is free to live his own life. To him, she is simply one of his students. The next day at school, Jack enters the classroom as usual, but something strange happens. When he checks attendance and notices that G is absent, he does not deduct points from Ayan this time. Even her classmates notice the difference. Ayan quickly explains that maybe it is because G was injured last time, so he assumed she was still unwell. After classes end, Ayan searches for the orphanage where G lives because she wants to check on her. She tells the supervisor that she is G's classmate and asks why she has not been attending school. The supervisor explains that G is currently working and barely comes back anymore because the restaurant she works at closes very late. Luckily, the woman knows the address of G's workplace and kindly thanks Ayan for caring enough to come visit her. The moment Ayan turns around, she is shocked to find Jack standing right behind her. She tells him everything the supervisor explained, and Jack asks how she even knew G lived there. Ayan casually replies that she noticed G's information while filling out forms before. Jack tells her to just go home and says he will personally visit G's workplace himself, but Ayan stubbornly insists on going too because she wants to make up for the points that were deducted because of G. The two of them head to the restaurant together, only to discover that G quit the place 2 weeks ago. The workers there explain that she moved to a barbecue restaurant because the salary was higher, but unfortunately, they do not know the exact name of the place. Jack and Ayan decide to split up and search in different directions, agreeing that whoever finds her first will contact the other. While searching, Ayan finally finds G inside a suspicious-looking restaurant filled with strange customers who are pressuring her to drink alcohol with them. Suddenly, Jack appears and immediately pulls her away, reminding her that she is still a high school student and should not be drinking at all. G's response is heartbreaking. She explains that she only goes along with the customers because they tip her extra money. At that exact moment, 2 loan sharks arrive and begin demanding money from G. They remind her that the deadline they gave her has already passed. G nervously tells them she still has not been paid yet, but one of them coldly replies that they are not running a charity for people to borrow money and refuse to repay it. Ayan immediately steps in to defend G and refuses to let them touch her. But when G admits she truly has no money to pay them back, one of the men grabs her arm as if he is about to hit her. Before he can do anything, Jack suddenly steps forward and stops him instantly. Because of his calm and respectable appearance, the men initially mistake him for a police officer. Jack explains that he is actually G's teacher. The loan sharks tell him that G borrowed money and keeps claiming she cannot pay it back. Without hesitation, the unbelievably generous Jack pays off her entire debt himself, including the insane interest that has raised the amount to 1,000,000 won. And he does not stop there. To make sure the loan sharks never bother G again, he records a video of them confirming that they received the full payment with interest. He even forces them to delete G's number from their phones. Ironically, the thugs turn out to be strangely polite. They thank Jack for paying and promise they will never contact G again. Before leaving, they even hand Jack their business card just in case he ever needs to borrow money from them someday. After they leave, G tearfully thanks Jack and promises she will repay him someday, even if it takes a long time. But Jack, being far too kind for his own good, refuses to accept anything from her. Instead, he tells her that if she truly wants to thank him, then she should simply attend school regularly, stop skipping classes, and focus on her studies. Meanwhile, while everyone else is focused on serious matters, Ayan is in an entirely different world. She secretly takes a picture of the loan shark's business card just in case she might need it one day. As the 3 of them walk together afterward, G explains that another girl from the orphanage had also borrowed money from those same men. The loan sharks harassed her so badly that they even attacked her inside the orphanage itself. That is why G works exhausting shifts non-stop just to repay the debt. The worst part is that every time she delays payment, the interest keeps increasing. On top of that, she is supposed to leave the orphanage next year, meaning she will need at least 5,000,000 won for rent and a security deposit just to survive. Eventually, Jack and Ayan walk G all the way back to the orphanage before leaving. On the way home, Ayan admits she never expected Jack to come all this way just to help G with her problems. She tells him that most teachers would never care this much about a student's personal life. For the first time ever, Jack actually says something genuinely nice to her and admits that he is proud of her too. But of course, Ayan immediately circles the conversation back to the topic of America again. She asks him if, after traveling abroad, he will finally get to do what he truly loves, or if he might change his mind. Jack answers honestly that while he does have a passion for traveling, right now the most important thing to him is teaching his students and seeing them succeed. The next morning, Aeon arrives at school only to discover that G is already there before her. Around the same time, Jenny returns from her trip and starts handing out gifts to everyone. For the first time, G actually smiles and thanks her warmly. Aeon then asks Gu to join their group, but Gu politely refuses and thanks her anyway. Ever since their last fight, Gu has been treating Aeon like a complete stranger. Even worse, her wrist is still hurting badly. During physical education class, the teacher asks Gu to throw the basketball into the hoop, but she struggles because of the pain in her wrist. Aeon quickly explains that Gu's wrist hurts from time to time, but because Gu does not want Aeon interfering in her personal matters anymore, she immediately tells Han that she is perfectly fine and can continue playing normally. Later that day, after school ends, Jenny notices G getting into a car with two men. The shocking truth is that they are the same loan sharks. Jenny secretly takes a photo and sends it to the group chat, mistakenly assuming they are just drivers picking G up from school. The moment Aeon sees the picture, she panics and runs straight to Jack, showing him the image. Jack reacts instantly, moving with unbelievable speed while telling her to send the picture directly to his phone. We then cut to Jack arriving at the loan company office, where he finds the same gangsters manipulating G and trying to convince her to borrow money again. After all, they already discovered there is someone willing to pay her debts with interest included. When Jack confronts them, the men shamelessly pretend the debt has increased again. They claim that instead of 1 million won, the amount is now 2.5 million won. Otherwise, they threaten to force G into working in suspicious places to repay them. G desperately runs to Jack and begs him not to pay them anything else, finally admitting that the men are complete scammers. At that moment, every thug in the office stands up, clearly making it known that nobody is leaving unless they allow it. Jack calmly demands to see the contract G signed because he wants to know whether any of this is even legal or if they are just making up rules as they go. One of the gangsters suddenly punches Jack in the face and arrogantly asks if he has any idea who he is dealing with. Jack slowly prepares himself to fight back, but before doing anything, he quietly tells them that they brought this on themselves. Meanwhile, Aeon arrives outside with Jack's fellow teachers. As soon as they get there, all three men step out of the car and firmly tell Aeon not to follow them inside or even come close. Naturally, she ignores them completely and goes in anyway. Inside, they find Jack lying crumpled on the floor like a defeated ninja, while G desperately tries to wake him up. Meanwhile, the gangsters are casually eating food as if there is not an unconscious man lying beside them. Poor Jack's face is completely bruised and swollen. Jack's friends finally burst into the room. Han angrily shouts, asking if they are the ones who did this to his friend. But honestly, the three teachers turn out to be even weirder than Jack himself. After acting like fearless adventurers, they immediately rush to help Jack stand up. Hyun, however, takes a completely different approach. Instead of calming down, he starts speaking to the gangsters in the most dramatic way possible, as if he is awakening some dark spirit inside himself. He asks them how they could possibly bring themselves to bully girls when girls are the gentlest creatures in the world. One gangster, built like a sack of beans, charges toward Hyun while yelling impatiently, "Are we done yet, or what?" But Hyun shocks everyone by instantly smashing a punch straight into the man's face, knocking him flat onto the ground. Aeon and the others stare in complete disbelief, just like the gangsters themselves. At that point, Hyun fully loses control. He throws off his suit jacket and starts fighting the gangsters swarming toward him like ants, and honestly, he absolutely destroys them, taking down one thug after another without mercy. Finally, the gang leader, who honestly looks like he suffers from severe malnutrition, desperately begs Hyun to stop and asks who he really is. Hyun calmly answers with perfect politeness, "I am a Korean literature teacher." But when the gang leader accidentally grabs Hyun's shirt collar, the fabric tears open, revealing a hidden tattoo underneath. After that terrifying display, Hyun forces the gangsters to sit in front of them and gently asks, in the exact same soft tone as before, how they could be cruel enough to prey on young girls like this. He forces them to apologize properly to the girls and warns them that if he ever hears they bothered G again, what they experienced today would feel merciful compared to what he would do next. And after the teachers leave, the gangsters sit there in stunned silence, wondering how someone so calm and polite could destroy them so completely. At that moment, Gu reads the messages in the group chat. Since she knows Aeon went after Ji, she immediately calls her. But when Aeon does not answer, Gu becomes extremely worried. Finally, she sees Aeon coming from far away, runs straight toward her and hugs her tightly. Crying, she tells Aeon that she was truly scared something had happened to her and that her mind kept imagining the worst. Aeon takes this chance to finally be honest. She admits to Gu that she likes Jack, then apologizes for not telling her from the beginning and for leaving her to misunderstand everything on her own. Gu explains that the real reason she got hurt was not only because of Jack, but because Aeon stopped telling her things. Every time Gu asked her something, Aeon would say, "It's a secret," or "I can't tell you." Gu even reminds her that Aeon did not tell her she was constipated, while Jack somehow knew first, as if Aeon had hidden her engagement party from her or something. In the end, the two girls make up. They promise each other that from now on, they will be honest and stop hiding things. When Gu asks what happened, Aeon gets excited and tells her that unbelievable things happened. She sits with Gu and explains how Hyun bravely faced the gang, beat them all by himself, and left them terrified to even speak in front of him. Aeon keeps describing every tiny detail, from what Hyun did to how everyone reacted. Gu listens without wanting her to stop, especially when Aeon mentions the dragon tattoo on Hyun's arm. Aeon explains that the tattoo seems to stretch from his shoulder all the way to his back, making him look like an ex-gangster who repented and became a good man. Aeon expects Gu to be impressed, but instead, Gu looks completely shocked. Because of her childish imagination, she starts thinking Hyun might actually have been a gangster before. Aeon instantly regrets telling her anything because she knows Gu is basically a walking drama queen. Meanwhile, Hyun sits alone, lost in thought. Honestly, anyone else would be proud after destroying a whole gang like that, but not Hyun. Jack's friends are treating his injuries, and poor Jack barely has one clean spot left on his face. Hyun, however, does not feel the same pain as Jack because he is too busy regretting what he did. He says he had promised himself never to hit anyone again and never to get involved in fights or conflicts. What makes him even more ashamed is that he acted that way in front of a student. Han reminds him that what happened was not something he planned. At that moment, all Hyun wanted was to save his friend and protect a helpless girl. Still, Hyun feels embarrassed because everyone saw his tattoo. To stop him from overthinking, Han reminds him of when they were children in elementary school and Hyun beat up the boys who used to bother him, then felt guilty afterward too. Han tells him he has always been a master at making things bigger than they are. Finally, Hyun relaxes a little. He admits he still does not understand why, after beating Han up back then, Han brought him porridge and cake. Han explains that he had to do that because he was the one who bothered Hyun first and tried to act tough just because Hyun looked smaller than him. Somehow, their conversation turns into a series of confessions. Hyun thanks Han because that incident changed his life. Back then, he was lonely and had no friends. Kim then tells him he should actually be proud of himself because he managed to transform from a street boy who only knew how to fight into an educated university student who ranked first, and now he has become a Korean literature teacher. Jack explains it beautifully, saying Hyun always had the ability to become a refined and educated person, but his circumstances were the only thing holding him back. Soon, the emotional conversation turns into memories, laughter, and teasing. At the same time, Aeon is sitting down, thinking about the new episode of her story. This time she makes Hyun the hero and Gu the girl being harassed by the gang, with Hyun stepping in to protect her. Basically, she writes the exact same situation that happened that day with the gang. As she writes, her heart almost jumps out of her chest from excitement. The next day, Ji arrives in class, and for the first time, she has her book and all her school things with her. Her classmates can hardly believe that Ji is finally not going to sleep in class and is actually ready to listen. Then Jack enters the classroom with his face covered in scratches and bruises. The girls immediately ask what happened to him and worry about him, but he reassures them that he is fine. After class, Jack speaks to Ji privately and asks her to focus on her studies from now on. Later, while Gu and Aeon are walking together, they run into Hyun. For the first time, Gu feels absolutely nothing toward him. She tells Ayeon that ever since she heard about the tattoo on his body, she has felt completely turned off. Ayeon tries to convince her that Hyun is truly a good guy and that he is the one who saved Ji. But Gu, being Gu, suddenly declares that from now on, she will become Hyun's real support. Her mission will be to keep him safe and make sure he stays okay. When Ayeon asks what she means, Gu explains that she will study hard and enter a prestigious university so that when she finally confesses her feelings to Hyun, he will be proud of her. Since Ayeon has no interest in studying, she tells Gu that she has now discovered the real reason she will remain single forever. Ayeon then explains her own thinking. She had always believed that if she liked someone, she would simply wait for him to feel the same way and love her as she is, without her needing to make any effort. But now she realizes she has been acting like a little child, doing nothing except feeling jealous and getting upset. Gu's words make her understand that she needs to work on herself so she can become someone worthy of being respected. Gu sweetly tells her that she is already worthy without doing anything. Ayeon asks what she should do next, and honestly, she should not have asked, because Gu immediately tells her to confess her feelings to Jack. Gu even teaches her exactly how to say it. But when Ayeon says she cannot look him in the eyes and confess like that, Gu pushes her to decide right away. Will she tell him or not? Since Ayeon is hesitant, Gu confidently assures her that Jack's heart will soften. She suggests that Ayeon confess during today's study group. And sure enough, during the study group, Ayeon sits there completely distracted as usual. Her mind is only focused on how she will bring up the confession. When the group finally ends, her heart starts pounding, and suddenly she does not want the session to be over because she is too embarrassed to go through with the disaster she is planning. After the other students leave, Jack asks her if she is going to stay a little longer. Embarrassed, she tells him she is just gathering her things. Then she calls out to him, but when he turns around, she has no idea what to say. So instead of confessing, she awkwardly blurts out, "Oh, did you get new glasses?" Jack looks at her as if she is completely hopeless and simply leaves. Honestly, for once, Ayeon almost makes the right decision and gives up on the whole confession idea. But because human beings are often their own worst enemies, she runs after him anyway. Unfortunately, she calls out to him like she has been electrocuted. Jack stops and turns around, clearly wondering what she wants from him this time and how far this chaos will go. After catching her breath, Ayeon looks at him as he asks what is wrong. She finally says, Then she looks at him and falls silent. Yoon finally runs after Jack because she wants to confess her feelings, but when she stands in front of him, she loses all courage and instead awkwardly talks about how bad she is at math and how guilty she feels about neglecting her studies. Jack strangely asks about a promise from 10 years ago, confusing her because they had never met back then. He avoids explaining and leaves, while Yoon keeps trying to get closer to him. She later decides to express her feelings indirectly through the novel she secretly writes, hoping Jack will understand her emotions when he reads it. As time passes, Yoon realizes confessing is difficult because to Jack, she is only his student. Jack reads her writing and seems to understand her hidden feelings, but acts distant. Meanwhile, Yoon becomes jealous after hearing Jack laughing warmly with another woman, noticing he never behaves that way around her. Feeling hurt, she decides she should stop thinking about him because she believes she is the only one who will get emotionally hurt. At the same time, Sun becomes suspicious that Yoon is the anonymous writer behind a digital novel based on their teachers and classmates. She starts playing mind games and intentionally scares Yoon, making her paranoid and anxious. Eventually, Sun discovers the truth and, out of jealousy and spite, exposes Yoon by spreading the novel around school and reporting it to the principal, causing rumors and drama to explode across the school. Yoon's world begins collapsing as classmates judge her and disciplinary action is planned. Jack, however, stays by her side and tells her to accept responsibility rather than run away from the consequences. After finally confessing everything to her parents, Yoon admits that writing had always been her passion, but she realizes she made a mistake by using real people as characters without permission. Filled with regret, she apologizes publicly, decides to delete the novel, and promises not to write again until she can create original stories from her own imagination. Yoon and her family prepare for the disciplinary hearing after her novel scandal. Her mother is upset and believes Yoon made a serious mistake, saying they cannot automatically defend her just because she is their daughter. During the hearing, teachers and committee members argue about whether Yoon deserves harsh punishment. Some want strict consequences, while others believe she is simply young and should learn from her mistakes. Then Jack surprises everyone by taking part of the blame himself, admitting he knew about her writing and encouraged her to continue chasing her dream. Jack passionately defends Yoon, explaining that she is talented and that talented young people should be guided rather than crushed. He admits he was jealous of her creativity and says she has the potential to become a great writer. Yoon then finds the courage to speak for herself and admits her mistakes. She says she regrets using real people as inspiration and wants to create meaningful stories from her own imagination, but she cannot give up writing because it is the one thing that truly makes her happy. Eventually, the school decides on a lighter punishment, a 5-day suspension instead of expulsion, and everyone feels relieved. After returning to school, Yoon slowly rebuilds her life. Sun apologizes and confesses that jealousy made her act badly because she wanted Jack's attention. Yoon surprisingly forgives her, believing the incident helped her realize her own mistakes. Yoon also begins seeing Jack's female friend differently, not as a romantic rival but as someone inspiring. At the same time, Yoon keeps improving in school and writing, while Jack continues quietly supporting her growth. Then the story takes a dramatic turn when Jack suddenly develops a serious eye problem and needs surgery. Yoon becomes deeply worried and visits him in the hospital. There, Jack finally reveals a surprising truth. They had actually met 10 years earlier in a hospital when she was a little girl struggling with math, and she had promised him she would become better at it someday. After his successful surgery, their lives continue moving forward. Yoon's writing career starts growing, her confidence improves, and before leaving for America, Jack and Yoon share an emotional goodbye, showing that their connection has become stronger than either of them expected.